Has anyone here ever felt a little bit nervous when it comes to making phone calls? Anybody looking for interaction on this for sure? Pat, you've never felt nervous about phone calls? Oh, okay. That's everybody, right? Everyone. Who feels like they are willing to unmute and say, what is the biggest fear you have when it comes to phone calls? Like, what are you nervous about? Zoe, what are you nervous about when it comes to phone calls?
I'm nervous about talking to people and them judging me for what I'm doing, not necessarily getting denied, but being judged. I think there's a big difference between that. Um, and so that's like something you have to overcome. And I guess my little way of how I did that was doing an all day phone jam. We were in the office, so I think if you guys are able to do or join in on all the phoning times tomorrow, that's very beneficial because by the end of it, you're kind of numb to phoning. So when you have to make phone calls like in a couple of days, it's just like, well, I just did it for 12 hours the other day. Let me sit down and do some for maybe an hour.
So Zoe, yeah, I know for real. That's how it is. Zoe, you said not the fear of rejection, but the fear of being judged. Anyone else feel that? Anyone else feel that? Yeah. What, and being judged of what? Anybody else want to unmute? Like being judged of what? Pat.
One that I always kind of struggle with was some of my, like, the people that I knew were wealthy. Like, either I got told they were wealthy or I know they're wealthy. Like, I don't want them to think that I'm just calling them and trying to sell them something because they know that I know that they're wealthy. Do you know what I'm saying?
100%. 100%. Yeah. No, anyone else feel that? Like you almost feel bad because they know why you're calling them, type of thing. Anyone feel like that? Okay. Any other things that you feel like you might be judged for when you're calling? Logan, did you just mouth something? You did? Who else? There's got to be other, or is that the only thing?
To one thing that I've been judged for a few times by family is they feel like I'm just being lazy about getting a job. They don't see this side of it. They don't see the calls on the other side. They don't know why I'm doing this. And so like I felt a lot of judgment, especially from my aunts and uncles who are a little more established. They told me like go sell groceries, go bag groceries or something like that. And I'm like, you don't even know why I'm doing this. But yeah, so some of the judgment I think is like the actual job itself. Kind of like what Zoe said, they were like, especially with like posting on social media, a lot of my friends that would swipe up, they're like, why are you doing this? Or like, they throw around the term pyramid scheme. That one I find is funny. So I talk them through what's actually going on. And everyone seems to be a little bit more understanding, but that initial judgment is always hard to front right away.
100%. Anyone else feel that? Anyone else feel any of that? 100%. So why I wanted to put this out in the open, we've all heard it, we've all felt it. And what's really, 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 really important to recognize, everybody, is when we are making these phone calls, booking these demos, the first thing to recognize is it is different than what Blake said a normal job is. Okay. This is not bagging groceries. I will never pretend like this job is bagging groceries. It is not. Thankfully, there are way more motor skills involved with this and opportunities to connect and grow. And there's not a lot of growth in a bagging grocery job. Would everyone agree with that? It's kind of a very, going through the motions type of thing. There is nothing wrong with that. Okay. But what I want everyone to recognize is the reason that there's any judgment cast, which isn't it wild that there's judgment cast on us doing something different and not on somebody who just goes and gets a job at Target because everyone else does. And it kind of like shouldn't this be put on a higher pedestal? But the reason that there is judgment or it feels different is because it is human evolution to want to be accepted by the pack. If you think about this, it makes sense, right? Anybody who was different over millions and millions and millions of years of evolution, anybody who chose to be different probably didn't find a mate, and those genes did not reproduce over and over and over. So who evolved over time? The people who stuck with the pack, did what everyone else did, and were very normal. We don't have to just survive anymore. That's what's awesome. Being different is very okay, but it's still judged the same way. Does everyone recognize this? So we're not primal, like nobody is going to be cast off by the pack for being different, but there's still that feeling of being judged and shouldn't you be doing this because this is normal? And that's very okay. So I think the first thing to recognize is, hey, this is very different, but just because someone else doesn't understand doesn't mean that it's not the right thing. I think we all agree, like seeing Jared be so great at it and JFK and all the success stories and entrepreneurs that have come from Cutco is pretty awesome. The other thing is the judgment of, like, I think it was Patrick who said people calling with the feeling of, oh, you're just calling me because I have money and you want me to buy stuff from you. Somebody unmute. What are we really asking for? When we call somebody, what are we asking for?
Their time.
Yes. Who said that? Jared or Gigi? You both unmuted. Jared, their time. So when we're calling, would anyone disagree? What we're asking for is their time. And I'd argue time is the most valuable human resource, not their money. Their time really is the most valuable resource. So what we're asking for is far more valuable than their money anyway. It's their time. Would anybody here disagree that HM30s burn a lot of time? Anyone disagree with that? I was home for Christmas and my my 3 aunts had a discussion in front of me that I almost was sitting there like, wow, if I could just record this and play it for any Cutco rep ever and be like, this is what HM30s are doing. They were talking about 3 different shows on Hulu that all 3 of them have watched in the last 2 months. They've watched like the whole series. That's season on season on season. So if they're not watching your demo, what are they watching? Who knows, right? So would you all agree, like HM30s, they have time. So if we're asking for their time that they have an abundance of, is it really a bad thing that we're doing? I would say no, right? And the other thing is, if you feel bad about asking for their time, you must be doing a pretty boring demo. Spice it up, have some fun. I remember when I was making phone calls, booking demos, I actually felt really excited about it because for me, it was like, I'd crack some jokes on the phone. Small town people, right? Beer is currency in my small town. I guess so. I'd be like, hey, you bring the drinks, I'll bring. Logan, you can probably relate, Montana. I'd be like, hey, you bring the drinks, I'll bring the jokes. Let's have a good time. We'll see you at 7 o'clock on Zoom. And people would eat it up. So tell some jokes, have some fun, right? If your presentation isn't the highlight of your week, add some more jokes in, right? Your presentation should be something that they think about all week, way more than their Netflix show. Okay? Would anyone disagree with this at all? So what we're asking for is their time, which they have an abundance of, and they have an abundance of this week more than any other week of the year. I sent an email to a Cutco corporate guy 2 days ago, or no, it was December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. And I asked for a favor. The response I got was, and it was about the Silver Cup. I felt like, Gerardo in first place, felt like there's some fishy stuff going on. Yeah, he's randomly had whatever. The auto response I got was, out of office until January 2nd. Happy holidays. I was like, January 2nd? This guy's off for 2 weeks? Are you kidding me? And then I thought about, you know what? My mom also off until after the new year. How many people know someone who's just off of work this week because it's the holidays. And what are they doing? It's cold outside. Like they're not that busy. They're not that busy, Blake, right? So once you look at these demos as, hey, I'm really not asking for a lot. People aren't that busy. The presentation's fun. And if you need one more reason to call people, there are customers out there struggling with their kitchen cutlery situation, and they have no idea they have a better option. How do you know that they don't know there's a better option? Was anybody's mind blown to shreds in training? Like, oh, wow, there's 10 different knives that you can use. Oh my gosh, them wood handles are disgusting. Wow, that steel gets that rusty. There are customers out there who've never went through Cutco training. They know none of the stuff you know. So the worst case scenario with your presentation is they learn a ton. Even if they don't buy Cutco, you're the highlight of their week because you're funny. You have a big smile. You make their day, and they learn a ton about kitchen cutlery and their knife situation. That's a win-win-win, I would imagine, right? And if they don't see the value when you call them, guess what they say? They say no, and you move on to the next person anyway, right? So if you make it about that, instead of making it about people buying Cutco from you, phoning doesn't have to make you nervous. Phoning doesn't have to be a dreadful thing, right? If you can just understand the favor that you're actually doing for people. Does this make sense? Okay.